morning, everyone, and welcome to Think Future. My name's Chris Kalabukas, and once again, we're coming at you live from deep, deep, deep in the heart of Silicon Valley, California. We're talking innovation startups, the future. Not necessarily those, not necessarily in that order. If you're watching on YouTube, smack that subscribe button and hit that bell so you'll be notified when no show comes online. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast service, please subscribe and please drop a note on Apple Podcasts. I greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate it. Now, a couple weeks ago, I talked about the kerfuffle around Roald Dahl. And if you don't remember the kerfuffle around Roald Dahl, it was that his work was going to be censored, changed, because it offended the delicate sensibilities of this early century, or this early decade, the 2020s. That they were going to go back and they were going to change some of the terminology used in his work because it offended people. Now, back then, a couple weeks ago when I did this show, I thought to myself, this is terrible. It's a terrible thing. It's Brave New World. It's 1984. It's all happening all over again. Things are being censored. Works are being censored. And I think at the time, I said to myself, the only people who should be allowed to change the work are the artists themselves. And ever since then, I've started having conversations with numbers of people who I know about this whole thing. The art and the artist. Can you separate the art and the artist? Now, if you ask me, you can separate the art from the artists, because you can have an artist who is a horrible person and they can create amazing works of art. And I thought to myself, well, isn't it just like work and a worker? Can't you separate the work from the worker? So let's say you had an employee who created something really amazing, but he was a horrible employee. Wouldn't you don't you think that you should separate the work from the worker, just because the individual might be a little unsavory or a little weird or a little strange or whatever, or make people feel uncomfortable? Does that mean that their work should suffer? Does that mean that their work should be banned? It's kind of like what's happening with J.K. Rowling. I mean, there's millions of people out there who love her work, who love the Harry Potter series, who love all of her work. But now that she's put out an opinion which is against popular opinion, against woke opinion, everyone's seeking to cancel her work or change her work because of her personal feeling. It's kind of like when George Bush came out and said, I'm not going to say I'm against abortion, even though I personally believe it. It's whatever the country wants. It was whatever the Supreme Court rules. So can't we separate the art from the artist? And I think what's happened nowadays is that a lot of artists are being forced to put themselves into their art. They're being forced to use themselves as part of their art, that their aspects are required in their art. So, for example, we can't say artist X painted this masterpiece. We have to say artist X, young artist X, female artist X, black artist X, Asian artist X, non-reparations lover artist X, art reparations hater artist X. So why do we keep squeezing our appreciation of art and connect it with the artist? And I asked that of ChatGPT, my latest writing buddy. And what it said was that the difference between work and worker and art and artist is that an artist puts themselves into their work, into their art. So when you have a white supremacist putting themselves into their art, even though they've created a beautiful piece of art, you have to demand that art be canceled because this white supremacist put their feeling into the art. But how do you know that? You could look at a piece of art and say, I don't see any white supremacy in that art, even though the artist was a white supremacist. So should we disconnect the art from the artist? Because the worker, in the same token, ChatGPT said that the worker doesn't put themselves into their work. But if you ask me, we always put ourselves into our work, whether we're doing art, whether we're doing work, whether we're creating a PowerPoint presentation, whether we're writing a report, no matter what we do, we put ourselves into our work. And if you ask me, and if you ask most people from my perspective, is that the work can stand alone from the artist. The work can stand alone from the worker, and the art can stand alone from the artist. And the art should stand alone from the artist. Just because someone is a horrible person in your view doesn't mean they can't create great art. You can look at the art and say, I don't like the art, but they might create a piece that is amazing. And you have to say to yourself, if I didn't know this person was a white supremacist, I'd love that piece of art. You see what I'm saying? So where do you fit on this spectrum? From my perspective, the art is not the artist. But lately, I've heard that many people feel that the art should equal the artist. Where are you on that spectrum? What do you feel the connection between the art and the artist, the work of the worker, should be? Do you feel that we should condemn the work because the worker doesn't conform to today's norms? Should we condemn the art? If we condemn the artist, should we be condemning all of the art of the artist because of the artist, because of what the artist says and does and how they are? Should we connect those two things, or shouldn't we? Let me know in the comments below. That's it for me for today. See you next time, and until then, don't forget to think future.